Hi, Katie here with Zomco. Today we are going to review how to square up your fabric. I use this technique to help me when I do my whole cloth quilts. So let's start with some background. Why you may want to do this. So when fabric is printed and cut, put on a bolt and cut into strips at your fabric store, it is simply not straight. It can stretch and fold, and so squaring up kind of helps even that out for your project, which gets into like the need of why you want to do this. So at the beginning of a project, you would want to maybe like square up your fabric. Like I said, I use it for my baby quilts, for my whole cloth baby quilts, or if you simply just need some straight fabric to get started. Materials you'll use. So I use a cutting mat here on my table. I have a ruler. You need at least one. I'll use two, and I'll show you that technique and why. You'll need an ironing board. I use Best Press as well. I turn off my steamer for my iron. I spray and press, and I find this really gets out those hard folds in the fabric. And you'll need a rotary cutter and then fabric. Now, I am going to use this cotton steel. It is a yard cut to kind of demo this for you. So with the fabric that you have, you want to make sure you have the selvage. The selvage is simply a tightly woven edge. You have two of them on each cut. It goes width to width. Most of the time it does have a title of the fabric, who printed it, maybe some like color suggestions, and then the other side kind of just blends in with the fabric a little bit well. We do want to cut these off, and they will help us square up. So it's ideal that you have this when you start. And I have already pressed this fabric. So now we want to take the first step. I am going to do selvage to selvage. So I'm going to fold it, kind of pinch it with my fingers as I do this. Now I kind of go back and forth and move it around until it is straight, flat looking, and the fold is pretty, it's just nice, it lays nice for you. I am going to demo a little bit more dramatic so you can kind of tell the difference. So here, it is not laying flat. It has a fold, it has even a fold on the fold, right? So we want to kind of bring it back. Again, I just kind of lightly press it against my fingers until it's pretty much flat. Then we want to lay it out. When you lay it out, you want to have the fold near you. Make sure your table is cleared. So the fold is closest to me and the selvage is further away. Now I'm going to move the camera and kind of give you this view so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I have laid this out. As you can see, the fold is near me while the selvage is the further away. Now, since it is only cut in half, you can see that the size board I have is a 36 by 24, the cutting mat, and my ruler I'm going to use is like 24.5 inches. This would work, right? It is fitting, but most of the time we're working with a little bit smaller area. So what I'm going to do is take the fold that's closest to me and line it up with the selvage. I'm going to like hand press it down. Now this is much easier to work with, a smaller area. And just remember, when you press and cut, you will have 4 layers. So again, at minimal, you do want a cutting mat, you do want a rotary cutter, and a ruler. I did mention earlier that I will use 2. This one is it's large, it's not necessary. It's just the one I pulled. So I am going to start on my right hand side. I am going to kind of quickly look and see where the fabric is. By doing this and looking, I'm going to use this ruler, it's a little easier to use. I'm going to just make sure I'm grabbing all 4. Now, I'm going to match up this ruler by doing that, I want to make a 90 degrees. So here is an example of 90 degrees. So when I line this ruler, I want to line up the bottom and make it 90 degree, and then I'm going to cut along that line. So to not waste as much fabric, I'm going to, again, kind of look and see where we're at. Come to the bottom, make sure it's aligned here. Once we are ready to rock and roll, I will make a cut. Well, try that again. And as I said, it is 4 layers of fabric, so you need to make sure you kind of put some oomph into it. So here we go. Those are good. Now, I'm going to come down to the other side. Here, since this is on my left side and I cut with my right hand, to make it easier, again, I'm going to lift up the fabric, and I'll use this big one. I'm going to lift up the fabric and make sure it lines up and I'm not wasting a lot of it. Line up the bottom, making it that 90 degree that we talked about. This is where the second ruler is helpful. So I'm going to take the ruler, place it on the left-hand side of the one that's making the 90 degree and lined up. Line this up, make sure it comes right on in without moving this one. Remove the ruler on the right and then cut using the ruler on the left. This, again, we'll get rid of. So now we are at a place where we have 2 out of the 4 sides squared up. Now we need to get rid of the selvage. This is a few different ways. It probably is a little bit more challenging. So what I suggest is try to keep your fabric on your mat and not move it too much. So one thing we can do is unfold this and fold the 2 halves together, depending on your ruler size or your mat size. Due to the space that I have, I'm going to try and just kind of keep it flat. Again, this is the best I've found. However, it's only possible if you have the space and the size ruler and the size mats. So again, I'm going to use my 2 rulers. I'm going to come over to the side. Again, to where the bulk fabric's on my left side, the selvage is on my right. I'm going to kind of pull it up and make sure I'm capturing both. Using the same technique, I'm going to line the ruler at the bottom, making a 90 degree triangle, a 90 degree angle, and then come up to the top and make sure this is aligned as well. So I'm just simply setting my second ruler on top of my first ruler, lifting it up to make sure I am going to cut off what I want. So I'm going to start by holding down this first ruler and cut it. Now when I get to the second ruler, I've stopped. I'm going to move the mat closer to me. Again, trying not to touch the fabric. I lost my ruler. I'm going to line this back up again. And now I'm going to hold the second ruler and reach and cut. Great. So now I have this yard of fabric squared up. And then here's the selvage that I've cut off. Well, you can see I missed some, so I need to do it again. Because of that, let me just show you the other technique if you don't have the space. So as you can see here, I missed some. I normally, hopefully you guys can see this. So I would just open up the fabric, just try to keep the edges and everything together. And the idea is for it to not lose where you cut and get off aligned. Then I'm going to carefully fold this in half so the selvage is on my right and my two cuts I'm going to line up. Again, the times I've used this technique, I found you're going to have a little bit of variance. It's not preferred. It depends on kind of how straight you need it. If you need it perfect, I would recommend my first version and make sure you cut it all off compared to this style. Okay, so selvage is on the right, majority of the fabric's on my left. I'm going to align my ruler on the bottom, get it as close as I can to save fabric and not waste it. And ideally this side should also be the straight, which it is, which is good. So cut that off. And I truly have cut off the selvage, and here we go. So this is our final product. We have straight on all four sides, and that is how you square up fabric.